WrestleMania 10 was a culmination of everything somewhat decent that happened in WWE in the 90s to a degree. Others look at this show as a mixed bag of sorts. I could agree with both opinions. As a child, I looked at this show very fondly for a number of reasons, which we'll get to here in a bit. But also at the same time, there's a few things on this show that may not have aged so well. Nevertheless, let's get into the Might and Majesty, which was the 10th installment of the WrestleMania franchise. This show would take place in New York City at Madison Square Garden, which was a return to where the first WrestleMania took place in 1985 and was headlined by a rematch of Bret Hart and Yokozuna, which just a year earlier had ended in controversy as Yokozuna defeated Bret Hart after Yokozuna's manager, Mr. Fuji, threw salt in the eyes of Hart. And Yokozuna would be immediately foiled by Hulk Hogan that night, but Hogan would drop the title back to Yokozuna at King of the Ring 1993 and vanish from the company for 9 years. This has of course been a part of wrestling fan lore through the years as a story in of itself. Not only Hogan leaving WWE, but also the fact that Hogan did not put over Bret Hart on his way out of the company. Yokozuna held the title for the rest of 1993, going through opponents including Lex Luger, and was even the guy who made The Undertaker disappear in early 1994. So Yokozuna was built up significantly well as a monster heel. And this set up to this WrestleMania 10 match, which was unique for the time. For the last few years, the WWE had implemented that the winner of the Royal Rumble was to face the champion at WrestleMania. But the finish of Royal Rumble 1994 saw a tie between Bret Hart and Lex Luger, and for the first time ever, there were two winners. So it was decided that there would be two championship matches. The best way to do this was apparently via a worked coin toss that saw Lex Luger get the first chance, with Bret Hart to face the winner later on in the evening. To make things fair, Bret was given a warm-up match in the same night against his brother Owen Hart, which would open the show. So just like that, there were 3 of the premier WrestleMania matches made. WrestleMania 10 was perhaps stolen by Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, as their ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship was the first of its kind to ever be shown on nationwide TV or even pay-per-view in the recent memory of fans' minds. The match originated in Stampede Wrestling in Canada, and the idea was actually first used by Bret Hart as far as the WWE goes. The two men battled for a pair of Intercontinental belts after Razor had won the vacant title, but the injured Shawn Michaels returned shortly after, proclaiming that he had never lost the championship. So both belts were put up, and the only way to win was to grab both title belts. The match overachieved anyone's expectation and is still talked about to this day as being a classic match and what most people will remember this WrestleMania for solely. The rest of the show, well, to put it lightly, was the usual thrown together mash of forgettable matches that WrestleMania was known for up to this point. As mentioned earlier, Undertaker was put away by Yokozuna in the casket at the Royal Rumble months prior, and in real life, Undertaker was nursing injuries and would not return until SummerSlam 1994, so his absence here is definitely noticeable when looking back in hindsight, and WrestleMania 10 would serve as the last WrestleMania match of one Macho Man, Randy Savage. Savage would exit the company in the back half of 1994, and this match was billed as a Falls Count Anywhere match with Crush. The match was an atypical brawl that I remember as being pretty decent, even though they ended up botching the finish. Nonetheless, the match was probably not the way Randy wanted to go out from a WrestleMania standpoint. Now let's go ahead and circle back to the world title matches. As mentioned, Bret versus Owen would open the show, and Owen would win the match after a surprise roll-up finish. This didn't affect Bret's match at all, as he would still go on to face the winner of Yokozuna and Lex Luger. That match went down as Yokozuna winning by disqualification, and this booking confused Luger fans that had bought into the Lex Express the summer prior to be given a Luger victory by countout at SummerSlam 1993. Luger was once again on the outside looking in and would ultimately never hold the WWE Championship. Bret Hart would face Yokozuna in the main event and would avenge his loss from the year prior by pinning Yokozuna clean after Yokozuna botched his own bonsai drop. After the match, the locker room poured out in support of Hart, all except for Owen Hart, who stood at the entranceway and stared down his brother, who he defeated earlier in the evening. This, of course, would set up more matches with them, including the cage match at SummerSlam 1994. WrestleMania 10 also had one of the first of its kind time situations, which ended up with a match getting cut from the show as a 10-man tag match was set to take place between Bob Holly, 123 Kids, Smoking Guns, and Tatanka. They were going to take on the Head Shrinkers, IRS, Rick Martel, and Jeff Jarrett. This match was cut due to time, but it also seemed that the match between Earthquake and Adam Bomb was precisely short, and it seems like also cut down for time. This show also featured a tag team title match between perhaps two of the lamest tag teams ever formed, the Quebecers and Men on a Mission. Also rounding out this card was a mixed tag team match between Bam Bam Bigelow and Luna Vachon against Doink and Dink, and a short women's title match between Alundra Blaze and Leilani Kai. WrestleMania 10 overall is a weird watch when looking back in hindsight. It's the first WrestleMania that officially turned the page from the Hulk Hogan era and put its shoulders onto Bret Hart. We also see Randy Savage on his way out as his last WrestleMania as part of the undercard. And we get Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, who would become key players in the wrestling landscape in the years to come. And the quote-unquote new generation was officially off and running. So let me know in the comments, what are your favorite moments and or memories of WrestleMania 10. Make sure you're subbed to the channel, as I'll have WrestleMania 11 out sooner than later, as well as other awesome wrestling videos. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time we visit Pro Wrestling Planet.